Some strangers you meet on a late-night ferry crossing can leave you shaken for years, especially when you're only 12 years old and trapped in a small space with someone who suddenly turns violent. This happened about 10 years ago during a family road trip from the North Carolina coast up to New Jersey. Instead of driving the entire way, we decided to take the ferry for part of the journey. We boarded around 11 p.m., and after settling into the truck, my family and I headed up to the top deck to get some fresh air and stretch our legs. The night was dark and calm, with the ferry gently cutting through the water. The upper deck was almost empty. The only other people up there were a younger middle-aged couple, a man and a woman. They seemed friendly enough, so we started chatting with them to pass the time after 5 long hours on the highway. The conversation was light and easy at first. The husband was talkative and polite, but it quickly became obvious that his wife had been drinking heavily. She slurred her words, laughed too loudly, and swayed slightly as she stood. I was used to being around drunk adults by that age, so I didn't think much of it at the time. After a while, the intercom crackled to life with an announcement. We would be arriving at our destination in about 20 minutes, and it was time for all passengers to return to their vehicles. I needed to use the restroom before we went back down, so I headed toward the bathroom on the top deck. A few minutes earlier, I had seen the drunk woman go in there as well. The bathroom was small and basic, with only 2 stalls. By the time I entered, she was already inside one of them, and I took the other. I had barely sat down when she started talking, rambling loudly from the stall right next to mine. At first her words were unclear, but it was obvious she was upset. Her voice grew louder and more aggressive with every second. Suddenly, she began striking the thin wall that separated our stalls with her fist. The loud bangs echoed in the small room. Then she left her stall. I heard her footsteps stop directly in front of my closed door. My heart started pounding. I sat there frozen, too scared to make a sound. Without warning, she started hitting and kicking my stall door hard. Between the blows, she screamed words I will never forget. "It's all your fault. It's all your fucking fault." She kicked the door twice more, the metal rattling violently. She continued ranting incoherently for a few more seconds, then turned to the sink, washed her hands noisily, and finally left the bathroom. I stayed exactly where I was, heart racing, body completely still. I was terrified she might come back, or that she was waiting just outside. The silence after she left felt heavier than the noise had been. A couple of minutes later, my mom gently pushed the bathroom door open and peeked inside. "Honey, hurry up. We need to get back to the truck before they start unloading." I don't remember exactly what I said to her. My voice probably shook, but I was too shaken and exhausted to explain what had just happened. I quickly washed my hands and followed her out, staying close to my family the entire way back to our vehicle. Thankfully, I never saw the woman or her husband again on the way off the ferry. I did try to tell my mom something about it later that night, but it was late, I was tired, and the words didn't come out clearly. She probably thought I was just scared of the dark or making up stories because of how late it was. I never pushed the issue. Even now, a decade later, I still remember how confused and frightened I felt sitting in that stall while a complete stranger screamed at me through the door and kicked it like she wanted to break it down. I had done nothing to her. I was just a kid trying to use the bathroom. It was one of those small, random moments that shouldn't have mattered, but it stuck with me. Sometimes the scariest encounters aren't with monsters in the shadows. They're with ordinary people who lose control for no reason at all, in the most unexpected places. Some things you see at 2 a.m. on a deserted highway during a violent thunderstorm stay with you forever, especially when you realize you were never supposed to see them at all. It was spring break, sometime in the early 2000s. My friend Jeb and I were driving through the middle of nowhere, heading back from a long night of wandering. The rain was coming down so hard it felt like we were driving through a never-ending car wash. Visibility was terrible, and the wipers could barely keep up. We had been on the road for hours with no towns or rest stops in sight, when nature finally forced us to pull over. We spotted a small, rundown gas station just off the highway exit. It was completely closed, no lights, no attendant, not even a single other car in the lot. Since we couldn't wait any longer, we decided to step into the thick bushes at the edge of the property, well away from the road. The storm was raging around us. Thunder cracked overhead, and heavy sheets of rain pounded the trees. As we were finishing up, Jeb suddenly spoke in a low, tense voice. "Hey, can you see that giant rock sticking out of the woods on that hill over there?" I squinted through the downpour. "Yeah, I can barely make it out." Jeb's next words made my stomach drop. "Look on top of it." There, barely visible through the heavy rain, was the dark outline of a person standing perfectly still on the highest point of the large rock. They were trying hard not to move, but it was obvious they were staring directly down at us. Even from that distance, I could tell the figure wasn't wearing any rain gear, just ordinary clothes getting completely soaked. We didn't hesitate. We sprinted back to the car as fast as we could, hearts hammering. Once inside, Jeb wiped rain from his face and said, "I think it was a girl, but it's so hard to see clearly in this mess." I started the engine. A random person without a car loses to four wheels 9 times out of 10. Let's get a better look and then get the hell out of here. I carefully maneuvered the car so the headlights, and then the brights, were aimed directly at the rocky outcrop on the hill. The powerful beams cut through the rain a little, but not much. Still, what we saw next sent pure ice through our veins. Instead of one person, we now clearly made out 2 grown men working together. They were both dressed head to toe in dark, blacked-out clothing, completely unbothered by the torrential rain. Between them, they were dragging something large and heavy, something that looked like a big, bulky trash bag. From our angle, it also seemed like they were digging or moving dirt right behind the rock. The worst part came in the split second when our bright headlights caught their attention. Both men turned their heads sharply toward the light. Their faces were covered with what looked like Halloween-style masks, dark, possibly painted hockey masks that hid their features completely. For one terrifying moment, they stared straight at our car. Then they quickly dragged the large object fully behind the rock, out of sight. I have never accelerated so fast in my life. The tires spun on the wet gravel before gripping the highway again. Within seconds, we were speeding back onto the empty interstate, rain still hammering the windshield. There were no other cars anywhere around. The patch of woods and the rocky hill were completely isolated, just a small, dark strip right beside the highway with nothing else for miles. No houses, no lights, no signs of civilization. To this day, I still don't have a single logical explanation for what we witnessed. 2 masked men dragging a large bag through the woods in the middle of a brutal thunderstorm at 2 a.m. in the middle of absolute nowhere. It lined up perfectly for a situation where there would be no witnesses. We never stopped driving until we reached the next major town, hours away. I'm sharing this now just to have it written down somewhere permanent, in case anything ever comes of it. If anyone has a reasonable explanation that doesn't involve something terrible, I'd genuinely like to hear it. Because every time it storms at night, I still remember those two masked figures turning their heads toward our lights, and the heavy thing they were so desperately trying to hide. Never ignore that sudden wave of exhaustion on a dark, empty road at night, because pulling over to sleep might be the decision that almost costs you everything. This happened about 2 years ago. I had spent the day at a family reunion and was driving the 2-hour journey back home. I couldn't stay overnight because I had to be at work early the next morning. The route took me along long stretches of rural roads lined with thick, dense bushes and tall trees on both sides, the kind of isolated, shadowy roads you see in horror movies. I had been driving for roughly 45 minutes when the tiredness hit me hard and without warning. One moment I was alert, and the next my eyelids felt impossibly heavy. I knew I wouldn't be able to fight it much longer, but I kept scanning the sides of the road for a safe place to pull over and rest. There were no gas stations, no rest areas, and no well-lit spots anywhere in sight. When it became clear that my exhaustion wasn't going away and no suitable parking spot was appearing, I made a questionable decision. I slowed down, turned off the road, and eased my car onto the grass behind a thick cluster of bushes. The idea was to hide the vehicle from passing traffic so I could sleep safely for a short while. The road wasn't completely deserted. I had been seeing another car every few minutes, but pulling slightly off the pavement and behind the foliage made me feel a little more hidden. Before closing my eyes, I glanced at the dashboard clock. It read 11:22 p.m. I drifted off almost instantly. Sometime later, I was jolted awake by a strange scratching sound coming from outside the car. I checked the clock. It was now 11:50 p.m. The noise lasted only a few seconds before stopping completely. Still groggy and extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around. I told myself it was probably just an animal and quickly fell back asleep. The second time I woke up, the scratching sound was back, and it was much more persistent. The clock now showed 12:40 a.m. This time the noise didn't stop after a few seconds. It continued steadily, sending a chill through me. My mind raced. Could it be an animal inspecting the car? But why would it come back almost an hour later? That didn't make any sense. I slowly raised my head and looked into the rearview mirror. Just as I did, I caught a quick glimpse of something dark moving away from the car and disappearing into the thick forest beside the road. That was enough for me. My thoughts immediately jumped to every horror story I'd ever heard, especially the old urban legend about the hook-handed killer who scratches cars and then attacks anyone who steps out to investigate. No way was I going to become part of a real-life version of that story. I started the engine, threw the car into drive, and got the hell out of there as quickly as possible. The road curved sharply just about 100 yards ahead. As I came around the bend, my headlights illuminated something that made my stomach drop. Another car was parked off to the side of the road with its driver's side door wide open. There was no one visible inside. I slowed down slightly, trying to get a better look to see if anyone was hurt or stranded. That's when I checked my rearview mirror again. At first I saw nothing. Then, suddenly, a man came sprinting around the corner behind me. He was running full speed toward my car, waving his arms and screaming at the top of his lungs. Hey you, get the fuck out of your car. Now. His voice was aggressive and desperate. I didn't wait to find out what he wanted. I slammed my foot on the accelerator and sped off into the night. My heart was pounding as I watched him grow smaller and smaller in the mirror until he disappeared completely. I never saw the man or the open car again. I drove the rest of the way home without stopping, wide awake with adrenaline. When I finally pulled into my driveway, the first thing I did was lock every door and window. The lesson I learned that night is one I'll never forget. Never pull over and fall asleep on the side of a dark, deserted road, no matter how tired you are. Some risks simply aren't worth taking, especially when the only thing between you and danger is a thin line of bushes and a few minutes of sleep. Sometimes the most terrifying encounters don't happen in dark alleys or abandoned places. They happen on an ordinary street, just 2 blocks from your own front door, when you're simply trying to get home safely after midnight. A few summers ago, I decided to go for a late-night bike ride with a close friend. We had spent the evening cruising around the quieter parts of town, enjoying the cool night air. When it was time to head back, we split up at the usual spot. I only had about 2 blocks left to ride by myself before reaching my house. Because of ongoing construction work, the street I needed to use was blocked off, so I had to ride on the sidewalk instead. The streets were almost completely empty at that hour, which made the ride feel peaceful rather than risky. Everything was fine until I approached the corner where I needed to turn left onto my own street. That's when I noticed a man walking alone on the sidewalk ahead of me. He looked to be in his 40s, a little scruffy with messy hair and casual clothes, but he didn't appear homeless or out of place. The sidewalk was quite narrow in that section, and I didn't want to startle him by suddenly passing close behind. When I was about 6 feet away, I called out politely, "Hey, behind you," to let him know I was approaching on my bike. He turned around sharply. The look on his face was pure anger, eyes narrowed, jaw tight, like I had personally insulted him. I didn't say anything else. I simply turned left onto my street and kept pedaling toward home. But he didn't continue on his way. Instead, he immediately started following me, his footsteps quickening. Within seconds, he was screaming at the top of his lungs, hurling vicious insults and threats. He called me every nasty name imaginable, yelling that I was a disgusting person and that he was going to kill me. His voice echoed down the quiet street as he raged behind me. I live right on the corner, just a few houses down from that intersection. I didn't want him to realize exactly where I lived, so I made a split-second decision. Instead of stopping at my house, I continued riding and did a full loop around the entire block to lose him. That loop is when things went from unsettling to truly frightening. When I came back around and glanced down my street again, there he was, standing directly on my front stoop. He was positioned at the top of the steps, staring out toward the street as if he had been waiting there for me. It looked like he already knew exactly which house was mine. He had somehow figured out my destination in those few short moments. He saw me ride past again on my second loop. This time he didn't scream or chase me. He just stood there silently, watching me with that same intense, angry stare. I didn't stop. I kept riding straight back to my friend's place instead, heart pounding the entire way. I stayed there until I felt it was safe enough to return home later. 2 days after the incident, my bike was stolen from the alleyway right beside my house. Looking back, the man didn't seem like someone living on the streets. He appeared fairly normal for the downtown area of our medium-sized city, where there is unfortunately a large population of people dealing with mental health struggles. That was part of what made the encounter so unnerving. He didn't look obviously unstable or dangerous at first glance. If the sidewalk hadn't been so narrow, I probably would have just passed him quietly without saying anything. After I got home that night, I texted my mom and told her what had happened. She decided not to contact the police right away. We only considered reporting it after my bike disappeared, but by then it felt too late to make much difference. Even now, Whenever I ride my bike at night or walk past that corner, I still glance over my shoulder. The memory of that man standing silently on my front steps, staring out at the street like he belonged there, still sends a chill through me. Sometimes the scariest part isn't the screaming or the threats. It's realizing how quickly a stranger can figure out exactly where you live and how easily they can wait for you right at your own door. Some mornings don't start with coffee or quiet thoughts. They start with a gun pressed to your head and a split-second choice between life and something far worse. It happened a few short years ago on an ordinary weekday morning. The sky was still dark, the air thick with mist, and the streetlights cast a dim, hazy glow. It was around 5 a.m., and I was walking to my usual bus stop while finishing a banana. My mind was wandering over something completely trivial, whether I should grab my daily Starbucks before or after the long commute. As I approached the dimly lit corner of my street, a tall man suddenly stepped out from a narrow alleyway on my left. He was wearing a black mask that covered most of his face. Still half asleep and disoriented, I barely registered his presence at first. Then he shouted, "Put down your fucking purse," and raised a gun, pointing it directly at my head. Everything snapped into focus in an instant. "Put down your bags," he demanded again, his voice sharp and aggressive. Okay. I replied quickly, my voice shaky. "I'm putting them down over here." He ordered me to walk toward him, closer to the alley, and then commanded, "Get down on the fucking ground." "I'm coming." Okay, I said, complying as calmly as I could manage while my heart hammered wildly in my chest. My hands still smelled sticky from the banana I had been eating moments earlier. I knew I had to find a way to escape, but my mouth kept moving almost on its own. "Look, see, I'm on the ground. My stuff is over there. Please just take my stuff." He didn't like that. "Shut the fuck up, okay?" he yelled. Before I could say anything else, he moved forward, got on top of me, and pressed the gun hard against my head. At this point, I should mention what I was wearing that morning. I was on my way to coach a high school sports practice, so I was dressed in baggy pants, a loose jacket, and a hat pulled low, the kind of oversized, casual outfit that made me look like a young teenager from the 90s. If not for my voice, I could have easily been mistaken for a boy. As he pinned me down with the gun still at my temple, he paused and stared at me closely. I can't fully explain how I knew, but in that frozen moment, something shifted in his expression. I'm certain it clicked for him right then that I was a woman. He suddenly got off me, stood up, and pointed deeper into the dark, dirty alleyway. "Come with me," he ordered. My stomach twisted with dread. I immediately remembered the recent string of sexual assaults that had been happening in my neighborhood, even in broad daylight. The thought of being forced down that alley made panic surge through me. Two competing voices screamed inside my head. The first one was fierce and defiant. "There is no way in hell you are going down there without a fight." The second was more realistic and terrified. "But he has a gun, you idiot." Then his real voice cut through everything. "Fucking follow me." So I did what I do best when I'm scared. I started talking. "I'm coming. I'm following you." I called out, trying to sound compliant. He made a crucial mistake in that moment. He believed me. He turned his body and his gun toward the alley, expecting me to walk ahead of him. I took one tiny step backward, then another, inching toward the open sidewalk. The second his attention shifted fully away from me, I took a deep breath, tucked my head down in case he started shooting, and burst into a full sprint. I ran as fast as my legs would carry me. A high-pitched scream tore from my throat before I even realized it was my own voice echoing through the quiet streets. I didn't stop running for 6 or 7 full blocks. Only when I was sure I had put enough distance between us did I circle back carefully toward my apartment, praying he hadn't followed me or figured out where I lived. An hour later, the police searched the alleyway, but the man was long gone. The only trace left behind was my discarded banana peel, slowly browning on the ground where I had dropped my bags. That encounter left me shaken for days. The adrenaline refused to leave my body, and I couldn't stop replaying every second in my mind. Even now, years later, the memory still bothers me. I'm haunted more by the terrifying what-ifs than by anything that actually happened. And for that, I know I'm incredibly fortunate. Because in those few surreal minutes, with a gun to my head and sticky hands that still smelled like banana, I came dangerously close to a much darker ending.